Kuphi nakuphi emakhaya emadolobheni naseComplasta khona lapho kubukela khona mahamba phambili SABC 1 sakumukela kwelehleleni Yilungelo Lakho luhlelo kule lukulethela ke indzaba tebathengi lethisematheni mina ke ngingisimpiwe Ngcongwane asingene endzabeni yethu namhla Tinkulungwane ke tetisebenzi lebetisebenza etimayini tegolide letaphathwa ke tifo letihlasela emaphaphu isilicosis kanye ke ne-TB titawubhadalwa lokhu ke kulandzelwa isigwebo senkantolo lesisite ke timayini letehluleka kuvikela abasebenzi ebungotini belithuli lebeliphuma ekumbeni imali ke lenganga 5 billion wemarandi itawuklonyeliswa labo basebenzi labo ke noma ke imindeni yabo kulabo lesebashona asesifike nakumbiko lesihlanganiselwe nguvisi lemdoda
I hand down the judgment.
Ukuyizwa kwesigwebo inkundla ephakamileyo yaseGauteng kuvuse amathemba kwabo bebesebencamile ukuba le mini iyakuze ifike noxa ibilibathwana belizokumamela lo myalelo uzise uchulumanco kumawaka abantu abaphuma kwizizwe ngezizwe ezikumazantsi eAfrika lo myalelo ingabe uyiswe kulonyaka kodwa unembali esuka mhla kwafunyenwa igolide emathunjini omhlaba waseGauteng ngo-1900 ngalo maxesha amadoda ephuma kwinkalo ngenkalo kunye nakumazwe ngamazwe ayithatha ijoyini eyokomba legolide elitye lixatyisiwe kakhulu kangaka lifunyenwa ngokumba imingxunya ezakuthi ingxalo iziqhushumbisi emva koqhushumbo kulandela olona thuli olufana nokufika kwenkungu endaweni luthi luhlala imiphungeni yabo bakufutshane nalo xa oko kusenzeka rhoqo kulapho izifo ezifana ne-silicosis ne-TB zintshula khona ngamawaka abasebenzi basemgodini abangamaxhoba ezifo amathuba amaninzi iimpawu zazo bezivela emva kwexesha umntu sewabuyela ekhaya bambi sebalishiya eli ngenxa yazo ukanti abanye basabambelele qha baquqa bequqele kumaziko onyango emva koxambuliswano beluphakathi kwamagqwetha amaxhoba kunye nabameli abanini bemigodi nolwaqala ngo-2012 kufikelelwe kwisivumelwano sokuba makuhlawulwe isixa-mali sizibhiliyoni ezintlanu zeerandi le mali iza kufikelela njani kumaxhoba okanye kwiintsapho zalawo angasekhoyo umntu uza kuzazi njani ukuba ukoluphi uluhlu lwamaxhoba aza kubuyekezwa ingaba wonke umntu wakhe wasebenza emigodini unelungelo lokufaka ibango le ngeminye imibuzo ungayindawo impendulo iyalandela
Asibonge kuvuyise lemdoda ngekusihlanganisela lo mbiko nyalo ke khuluma kabanti ngekuthi ke le mali itawehlukaniswa kanjani asesimukele mboniso nyathi lovela ke Legal Resources Center siphinde sibe naloyo lovela Alexander Spoor yena ke uvela Richard Spoor's Incorporated Attorneys. Gentlemen, good afternoon and welcome.
Thank you for having us.
Okay, angicele ngawe ke ukuthi what's your analysis of this landmark judgment?
I think this is a historic judgment in the industry, like specifically in mine.
Yeah.
It's very precedent-setting settlement, and it's a broader, and it's also ambitious in its nature because it involves other neighboring countries, the SADC countries as well. So we have workers who have worked from Namibia, Lesotho, Zambia, Zimbabwe, being part of this historic settlement.
Now, khuluma ngekuthi it's precedent setting lokho kusho ukuthi lamanye ama mining companies yini atawulandzela lo mgomo lokhishwe inkantolo.
It is precedent setting in the sense that it is the first in the history of South Africa that we have such a settlement.
Okay.
So in future, the other settlement will look to this one as a precedent.
Okay. Now, silicosis is as old as mining in South Africa. Now, I'm curious to know why is it that mining companies are only accountable now?
The history of silicosis and knowledge that breathing in dust causes harm has been known since thousands of years, from Roman times. In South Africa, and this is an important part of the history to this case, it was thought for 80 years or so that you couldn't sue your employer for making you sick through breathing in mine dust. And this was through a statute called a DIMWA, the Statute for Occupational Diseases in Mine Works Act, there was an interpretation that says even if your employer makes you sick, you're only entitled to certain compensation. The precursor to this class action, which paved the way in many respects for this, is a case that had to go all the way to the Constitutional Court, where Thembekile Mankai, the late Thembekile Mankai, litigated against Anglo-American. In that case, we had to go all the way from the High Court, where we lost. We then had to go to the SCA, where we lost again. And finally, we went to the Constitutional Court, who ruled that overturned a precedent of 80 years and said that when your employer negligently kills somebody, you can sue that employer.
I mean, how is the compensation determined? What are some of the factors that were taken into consideration for them to have come up to that resolution?
Compensation is a complex issue. In terms of our law, we have statutory compensation and you have compensation under what we call the common law, generally under the law of delect. In South Africa, there is compensation for lung diseases under the Dimwa Act. In terms of compensation here, it's about a negotiation. This is a settlement, essentially. So one has to weigh up what is the maximum that you can recover for your client. Now, there are many factors that go into that. One is what are your likely common law damages? The other thing you have to think about is how long can the parties litigate for? Now, if you get 500,000 Rand at the end of 10 years versus 250,000 Rand now on settlement, you need to weigh up which is the better option for your client. Some of the really important factors for us was that this is a disease that kills. We saw within our clients that we were losing about 4% of our client base each year. We know that these are large and powerful mining corporations, and litigation takes a really, really long time. So we have that the mining companies could have bogged us down in litigation for a decade. So one has to come to a negotiation and a settlement knowing you have a very powerful opponent, right, but also knowing that you have a very powerful case. And then, of course, as in this settlement, you will have the quantum will depend on the severity of the lung disease. So those are some of the factors that went into the determination of the compensation.
Don't you think that this case proves that the authorities are only reactionary? I mean, they should have been proactive in the sense that they should have, forced or coerced those mining companies to adhere to some of the occupational safety standards.
The failures in mining and ensuring that workers are protected against these sort of diseases are preventable. They have been known about for an extraordinary long period of time. And often prevention, when you're dealing with a large corporation, is about what's the bottom line. Right. At the end of the day, a corporation is not a human being. There are certain standards it must adhere to, but the profit motive is very powerful. So until mining corporations are made to pay for the harm that they cause, well, then it's cheaper to kill than to correct. And in that regard, the government and law enforcement to ensure that standards are upheld on the mines has a very big responsibility on their shoulders.
Now, mbono yini umlayeto lomkhulu nje kahle kahle ikakhulu kule tinkampani mayini ngekutheni kumele ke bayilandzele imithetho yekuphepha?
I think la sesikhona manje, like in terms of esifinyelele khona, I think umlayezo obalekile ukuthi like amalungelo abantu abasebenza as mine, ama-mine mele abe responsible like going forward ukubhekelela ukuthi kungabi khona prevent like ingozi ezingenzeka kubasebenzi abasebenza as mine.
Yeah, it's basically highlighting the fact that this is sending a stern warning to all mining companies to take into consideration human rights and as well as workers' rights. And I'm sure we cannot overemphasize the importance of that.
We really can't. Our constitution protects the rights of workers, the dignity of workers. And our legislature has moved with legislation which is supposed to be adhered to, which ensures that workers are protected. Okay. We must do more. Mining companies have to do more to ensure they adhere to the highest standards, and we need to make sure that government entities hold them accountable to those standards. But what this case shows is that the impunity that mining companies have had for decades must come to an end, and this case in a certain way shows that that impunity will no longer stand.
Right. How many players are in this space? I mean, the fraudsters have got wind of the possible windfall and have identified opportunities for scamming. How can that be countered, though?
Unfortunately, far too many. We get calls daily about various scammers, not only here in South Africa, a lot in Lesotho, Mozambique, Swaziland as well. What's really important for people claiming to know is that this is a process that should not cost you anything. Mm-hmm. It's a process where you do not need to pay a third party to argue the case for you. Mm-hmm. It's when the trust is set up, which is called the Chiamiso Trust, which means to make good in Setswana. When that is set up, which we expect, we're hopeful for the end of the year, early next year, it will embark on a process. It's mandated to reach out to workers, to do the lung functions, but it will also be very aware of the fraudsters and scammers that are there. Part of the thing that we're trying to do is working with our social partners to just get the message out there that the way you do this is you register through the trust. There is a process to do that and to encourage that. And where somebody says, give me some money, no, that's not linked with the trust.
Okay. All right, let's leave it there for now. Khumbula ke mbukeli ukuthi nawe ke ungaba ingcenye yalolu hlelo namhla ungashayela icingo khona lapha e-studio ku-011 7146918 noma ke 011 7146919. Ungasithumela futhi ne-SMS ku-33721 noma ke usibhalele ku-Facebook. Kwanyelo asesishelele ngasetolo. We'll be right back. Siphinze kwamukela ke mbukeli namhla sibuka ukuthi labo ke labathinsekako ke kulo mqomelo wa 5 billion wemarandi bangasifaka kanjani isicelo sengcenye yabo kule mali. Let's take our first caller. Sina Paul ulapha ke Northern Cape. Sawumule ehlelweni sawubona. Paul in the Northern Cape, good afternoon. No, we seem to have lost Paul. We'll try to re-establish connection with him. Now, Richard, tell me, for some of the mining companies which closed down and some have been swallowed by bigger mining companies, will this not affect the compensation process?
So there are about 30 different mines. The settlement is with 6 large corporations, but there's about 30 different mines here. Part of the reason that the settlement was so urgent was that gold mining production in South Africa has reduced, and many corporations have aimed to leave the country. In this instance, the 6 companies who we have gone after are historically liable for the gold mines that they have owned. So in that instance, it's not a major issue. It was a major issue on settlement. What remains an issue, and which is important for people to know, is that not all the companies that we went against agreed to settlement. We are still pursuing. Some refused to reach settlement, and there's appeal now pending before the Supreme Court of Appeal. Our intention in that regard is to still go after those corporations to make sure they are held liable for the damage that they have caused.
And what about those mining companies who do not have capacity now to pay out? Like some of them are being liquidated, like they don't have the capacity to pay out such lump sums.
Yes. Well, this is the very real difficulty faced, that this litigation has unfortunately taken so many years to get here. It had to move. It took 7 years for it to get through the Constitutional Court. It's a reality that we face. If the mining company is unable to pay it, in terms of settlement, it means either that company is sunk with the liability, or you must try and reach some accommodation that payment is paid out over a longer term. That would all be part of the negotiation going after that individual company. But that's also a consideration. We don't want to litigate against corporations that at the end of the day will simply not be able to pay. You cannot litigate against an empty shell.
So what then should supposed to be done? What should happen?
Well, this is why there is while we hope through this settlement to achieve some sort of justice for mine workers, the reality is that people are not made fully good. They are not made fully right through the settlement. The history of mining is the history of South Africa, and it's linked with our apartheid history and the treatment of black workers throughout this country. And unfortunately, a lot of those profits have been taken and they have been moved. So in certain instances, there will be individuals who, unfortunately, the person there to pay the price will not be held accountable. In that regard, what will happen is that they will fall on the statutory compensation system. That statutory compensation system ensures that even if the company closes down, that mine worker must be paid out a certain amount.
Right. Let's take our second caller. Sina Dineo ulapha eVelcom. Sekomodo ehlelweni sawubona.
Hello, Papa Naka.
Siyaphila kunjani mama?
Siyaphila. Bengicela ukubuza ngamtata umsebenza apha eSendelina for wapho intervention ngindaba yesiphelele. So after that ngiclaim imali zakhe bathi ubhadele. So angazi ukuthi kufanele ukuthi because ticket ezithi zezikhosi.
Sicela uphinze umbuto wakho maka. Sicela uphinze umbuto wakho asikawutholi kahle.
Ngicela ukubuza utata wami osebenza eMine. Wakufumana certificate ezithi ukuthi une silicosis. So ngelesikhathi sithi siyabuza ngendaba zemali kwathi uke wabhadalwa for isimba. And manje wasoleka nge-2016 ubulawa yona i-silicosis kodwa ebese ephumile emsebenzini.
So naniya kule mayini bathini bathi bambhadala?
Safona kula mafoni siyafupha emsebenzini kwathi wabhadala.
Nina bathi banawo ama records ekuthi vele bambhadala. Nekuthi ke bayifaka kuphi i-account yabani?
Angiyazi ngoba nginayo incwadi yakhe yasetera, nginamakhuluskopa akhe ne-certificate zonke.
Okay, this is a very serious matter. She's basically saying that a relative of hers worked for a certain mining company, and that particular relative died of silicosis, and the mining company said they did pay out that particular mine worker, but she says she doesn't know who they paid that amount to. In that particular instance,
in this instance, akazi ukuthi ngubani obhadalile leyo mali, obhadaliwe leyo mali.
Uthi ngile nkampani the mining company la bekasebenza kuyo?
I think mining company like kuzomele maybe contact maybe abameli maybe officer fana nathi ukuze like follow up ukuze sithole ukuthi kwenzeka kanjani ukuthi bathi babhadaliwe kodwa imali ingafiki kulo muntu okumele ifike kuye.
Okay, Dineo is still on the line. It's in inombolo yenu.
Number angai contact 011 836
Yes.
9831.
9831. Okay, Dineo, njoba sowuvile ke sicela ukuthi uthintsana nebaka Legal Resource Center kuna inombolo nayi 011 836 9831.
011
836 9831.
9831.
Yeah, uphathe ke wonke nemininingwane ke yemufi ke in terms of documentation naluthi ke bathi bayibhadala nini, all those details. So batawuzama ukukusida ke maka.
Okay, ngiyabonga.
Okay, siyabonga kakhulu ma. Just picking up on the point la Magidineo lapha. So where should they go for those claimants who still need to lodge their claims? Kumele baye kuphi bathintsane nabantu futhi?
So ngalesikhathi into ekhona ukuthi kumele balinde until kune notice ekhona. I'm sure ababukele ekhaya bayibonile like bayizwa naku emsakazweni. Kune notice ekhona. Le notice yachaza ukuthi abafuna ukubandakanya abangafuni ukuthi babandakanywe ngale settlement kumele khona imininingwane ekhona kuleyo advertisement ukuthi kumele khona ama form omele basayine achazayo ukuthi abafuni kuba part of le settlement agreement ekhona.
Okay.
Laba abafuna ukuba part of settlement agreement into kuzomela bayenze kuzomela balinde. So kuna 90 days umele after 90 days I-trust izofoma after yonke imbandela ye-trust ye-settlement agreement seyiphelele.
Okay.
I-trust izofoma and then
Emva kwalo 90 days.
after 90 days
Kucala nini? 90 days from when?
I think i-90 days izogcina nge-23 zika November.
Okay.
Yeah. So after nge-23 zika November after yonke imigomo yale settlement agreement seyifinyelelwe kuzomela i-trust iforme.
Okay.
So leyo nto futhi izodependa ngokuthi kuzoba khona na abantu inani labantu abazo opt out. So
Nakhuluma nge-opt out ukhuluma ngani?
so opt out abantu abangafuni ukuba part of settlement agreement. So understand ukuthi bakhona abantu abangafuni ukuthi baye enkantolo baziyele bona bangavumelani nalesi isivumelwano esikhona okwamanje.
Manje-ke uthi kukhona ke labangeke bavume ukuba part of le settlement le. Lokusho ukuthi abafuni kunikwa le timali?
Not ukuthi abafuni ukuthi banike imali, mhlawumbe umuntu acabanga ukuthi le mali incane le abanikezwayo.
Okay.
And then unamalungelo akhe lo muntu ukuthi angabi part of le agreement ayena enkantolo ukuthi afune ukuclaima directly from ama mine.
Okay.
Yeah.
Now, Richard, he raises a very valid point, an important point, that saying that some of those would be willing to opt out of this agreement, that they would be instituting legal proceedings on their own without being part of the, the group settlement or the class action. So is that really advisable?
So the nature of a class action is that even though we had at RSI about 26,000 clients and collectively more than 50,000 clients, there are still many thousands of people who we simply could not reach, who may never have even heard of the settlement. In a class action, then, the court takes on quite an important role. It needs to protect people who have not been part of the litigation and been involved in that litigation. So one thing it does, it has to say that this settlement is fair and reasonable, which it has done, but it also must give the opportunity to those who do not wish to be bound by the settlement to litigate on their own. Because the settlement is by its nature a group settlement, it's a class settlement, for certain degrees of sickness. Now, a person still has the right to go after that mining company on their own. To do that is a very personal decision. One must understand that...
Is it advisable, though? Would you advise them to?
In terms of advising, it would be difficult to really comment on that because it is a personal choice. It would require somebody to consider factors around what they were earning at the stage, how difficult the litigation would be, who is the lawyer who would take that litigation forward. From the class attorney's side, we have said that we believe the settlement is fair and reasonable. But as I say, if a person wants to make that decision, it would probably be best to do it. Think very carefully about it and seek independent legal advice before they opt out of a guaranteed payment.
So the test of reasonableness, as I've just alluded to, how do you determine, how do you come to that conclusion that a particular amount should be allocated to person A? I mean, based on what? What are some of the factors that are taken into consideration with the particular focus on the length of service and the health condition of that mine worker?
Yes. So that whole process, for the court to make that decision that this settlement was fair and reasonable required a great deal of submissions, expert submissions to be put forward to the court to say that it was fair and reasonable. So we had sociologists come in, we had medical experts come in and express an opinion saying, what is the impact that these lump sums will have on people's lives? Will there be a significant impact? Then the lawyers have to look at it and say, what are we able to get out under a common law claim? So we look at what the quantum is if we moved under the common law, and then we have to agree that how much can that be discounted on settlement? And some of those factors that I've already spoken to are, is it better to have money now in the hand, or do you fight for a larger amount and wait 10 years? Those considerations involve very hard choices. Some of those choices, as I was saying, is at the end of 10 years, we could have lost nearly half of our class members. So the court had to look very carefully at those submissions. We had to satisfy the court that the settlement was fair and reasonable, taking into account what was the harm caused, how likely it is to prove that harm. Because under the law, you have to prove causation, you have to prove negligence. And here, the quantums are different in terms of how do you prove silicosis versus how you prove TB. Many factors go into that calculation.
Okay, we'll be discussing the differences between silicosis and TB in a moment after this break. Ngabe ke ungilomunye ke walabo labasebenta emayini labagcine sebathola isilicosis noma ke iTB. Singathanza kuva ukuthi ke le mali idouble sito kanjani kuwe. Tincingo tethu tivuliwe ke 011-714-6918 noma ke 011-714-6919 ungasithumela futhi ne-SMS ku 33721 noma ke usibhalele ku Facebook. Kwanyalo asasisishelele ngasatitolo. Siyabuya khona nyalo. Singakayi ke ekhefini sibutile ukuthi ke ngabe ungilomunye walabo labasebenta emayini labagcine ke sebathola isilicosis noma ke iTB. Singathanza kuva ukuthi ke le mali idouble sito njani kuwe. Tincingo tethu ke tivuliwe ungasithumela futhi ne-SMS noma ke usibhalele ku Facebook. Let's take our next caller. Sina Gloria ulapha East London. Sekumole sawubona?
Molo tata.
Siyaphila kunjani mama?
Ngiphila kunjani wena tata?
Siphilile khuluma nathi mama.
Yebo tata, umyeni wami mina ngithathele kuye ngo-75. Esebenza eFar Reef number 8.
Okay.
Waphinda watransferelwa eFar Reef number 9 uvula kwayo unolikwa. Uphume apho egula i-tuberculosis.
Okay.
Wade wasweleka ke ngokuselapha ngaphandle walala esibhedlele enumber 2 etrust number 2 waphuma emva koko wazobuyela ekhaya ngangafumana imali.
So nakashona ushone asebenda noma bekangasasebenzi?
Besephumile ngoku ehleli.
Waphumiswa kugula?
Ekhutshwa kugula.
Okay. So ikhona i-compensation la ithola?
Zange sithole nto. Imali endayithola ngoba ngamyela ezone 6 safumana i-2015 rand. Yabe iphelele apho.
Okay. Lapha ezone 6 yini ke manje ngile nkampani, is it part of le nkampani?
Ayo company kaloku izwelisha ikomkhulu lethu ngoko. Izinto yayinto ebuhome affairs ngoko. Ezwelisha King Lamstown apho ingxaki zonke besizenza khona.
Okay.
Ngiyele ngobona ukuthi asinakutya futhi le TB yakhe ngoku seyijobhe nabantwana dinamawela amabili. agula nawo lala kwaxa bakhonde ukutya ke ngoku ndaya ezone 6 ngoncedo lukagqirha uDr Philiso eMankhoku.
Okay, Ma'am Gloria, siyabonga kakhulu ukusishayela. Tini intetho ke tikhona lapha e-studio ke takusita kulolu hlangothi. Gloria from East London is basically saying that her husband died of tuberculosis. He was working for this mining company for the longest time, but then he contracted TB and he had to go home on medical grounds, or he had to, take a pension on medical grounds. And then he died later on as a result of TB. So they went to this office called Zone 6 to get recourse from that particular office, and they were only given 2,500 rand. How would you navigate around that? How would you help, Ma'am Gloria?
I think umama as independent from obaba uzokwazi ukuthi athole naye isinxephezelo as part of le settlement. So into umama akumele ayenze manje kumele alinde ukuthi i-trust ibe up and running ukuze ikwazi ukuprocessa ama-claims. Umama kumele abe nama-document from i-medical history kababa. But ukuthi umama uyathola isinxephezelo kuzodependa ukuthi inkampani lezi eziseklishile as part of settlement le ayisebenzela ingenye yazo na.
So le mali kayitfola yini le Zone 6, is it part of the company or is it a different agency altogether?
I think le kungaba i-different agents or enye into engekho part of le mali. So le mali is abazoyithola is for i-settlement as for contacting silicosis or tuberculosis.
Okay.
Yeah.
So for people like Gloria, and I think it'll bring in a different conversation altogether when it comes to whether this particular settlement will be retrospective. Would it take into consideration some of the cases that were before the handing down of this judgment?
In terms of the application of the judgment, it goes from a period from 1965 up to the present, for as long as the trust will operate for the next 12 years. So if you are able to meet the trust criteria to show that if your husband passed away or if he's still alive, it's very important that he has the medical certificate demonstrating that. In the case of TB, it's likewise the same. It's very important that that documentation is kept and can be brought before the trust to found a claim. You will need a document that says TB is the primary cause of death in certain instances. But I'm unsure of who the Zone 6 is, but we do have a toll-free number which operates on two bases. It deals with both claims under the settlement, but it also operates as a line to the MBOD to get in contact essentially with the Compensation Commissioner's office.
Okay.
And there people can also find information and get clarity on these sorts of claims.
Okay, hayi ke bekunene ke nangabe ufuna ke leyo nombolo, it's on your screens right now. Ungaba sendela futhi ke please call me but akushayela ke for more details. And let's discuss in detail, shall we, the differences between TB and silicosis and whether this particular judgment concerns itself with TB cases or silicosis cases.
So the judgment concerns itself with both TB and with silicosis, and there are different degrees of TB as there are with silicosis. In terms of the silicosis claims, there are three primary different classes of claims for what we call first, second, and third degree silicosis.
Okay. All right, we'll discuss that in detail after the break. It is a victory for many mine workers who contracted silicosis or TB while working at the mines. Now, the court recently ruled that they should be compensated 5 billion rand by the mines. What does the settlement mean and how can one lodge a complaint? Yindzaba ke lesikhuluma ngayo ke namhla ke mbukeli, asasiphinde sithi saselikhefu sisishelele ngasetolo. Siyabuya khona nyalo. Asiphinde sikumukele futhi kumbukele, sisahleli ke naye Mboniso Nyathi lovela e-Legal Resources Center kanye na Alexander Spoor lovela ke e-Richard Spoor's Incorporated Attorneys. Sikhuluma ngayo ke i-settlement ye-silicosis naye ke i-TB. Now asesikhulume kabanti ke ngetinhlelo noma ke the categories of lama claimants nalama claim.
So ama-category akhona for silicosis matatu. Kune first stage class which is about 70,000. And then the second one, depending on the degree of the effect of the silicosis, is 150,000. And then the third one, the class is 250,000. But then there is an exceptional category, which is the fourth one, where it is very the silicosis is very advanced. So that one, it is up to 500,000, but it is a very exceptional circumstance.
Okay.
And then on the...
Now, saying exceptional circumstances, what is it that they're looking at?
I think they look at the stage in which the person is sick. So on how the damage that is there, whether there is whether the silicosis in itself, whether there is cancer affecting the lungs, and so that's what they look into.
So the categories now, a silicosis, a TB, or is it both?
So this one is only for silicosis. For ETP, the category is, I think, I'm not sure exactly of the figures, but it starts from 10,000 up to 100,000.
Okay. So, Alexander, for those who have died, say, for instance, they are entitled to 50,000 rand and then they died in between that process, so does the company pay the family or the survivors the same amount, or is it different, or is it a different amount?
That's really important. We have what you call, if the person is alive, there is a type of claim, but we also have a dependence claim. A dependence claim is essentially a claim that would have gone to a dependent in terms of as if you had died without a will. Then it would devolve in that way. The rates are slightly different depending when the person passes away. So if they pass away when once the trust is set up, if a widow, for example, claims, but the husband passes away post the settlement, they should be entitled to the same payout that their husband would have been entitled to.
Okay.
But a very important point to note there is that the lung tests are so important to get. Every mine worker in this country is entitled on death to have those lungs. They should be taken out, it's actually statutorily required, and to be examined. So widows, dependents need to be aware that if their husband, if their spouse, their brother, their sister, anybody in the family dies, they must insist that an autopsy is performed and that they can look at those lungs and test to see which degree of silicosis they have.
All right. Let's take our next caller. Sina Mbongeni ulapha ke Mpumalanga. Sakumole hleleni sawubona?
Kunjani baba?
Siyaphila kunjani baba?
Ngiyaphila.
Khuluma nasi baba.
Yeah, ngicela ukubuzela lapho kubahlonishwa ukuthi if bosebenza under as a contractor ku one of those mines uyaqualify ukuthi ungaclaim yini na if ube wa contract like silicosis or ETP.
Nangabe boy contractor but you were not an employee.
Yeah, bosebenza as a contractor ku one of those mines.
Okay, Mbongeni eMpumalanga siyabonga kakhulu ukusishayela ke sithatha likhefu nyalo ke dini intetfu ke titawuphendula lo mbuto wakho emva kwelo likhefu. Nyalo ke sithatha likhefu lefle gcina ngci. Please join us after this break. Yilungelo Lakho sanimukela futhi babukeli. Nyalo ke sisayicucumbela indzaba yethu namhla sikhuluma ke ngesilicosis nale settlement ke that is supposed to be given to those miners or the claimants. Before we went to that ad break, to the both of you gentlemen, I'd love you to respond to the question Yambongeni ulapha ke eMpumalanga. He was asking that if you are a contractor, do you qualify to be part of this settlement? Because I mean you were also exposed to the same level of risk as the other employees.
Yes. So In terms of the settlement, your entitlement is dependent on your working on one of these mines over a period of time. So if you were working as a contractor on this mine or you were employed by the mine directly, you will be covered under the settlement.
Okay, Mboniso?
Yes, Alex is right. If you were working as a contractor, you'll be entitled to some form of compensation as long as you can prove that you were exposed to the work risk that was involved in the mine.
Okay.
This even includes the people who were working in the laundry rooms for people who were washing the clothes for the miners.
Okay.
Yeah, so I think you'll be covered as long as you can prove that you was exposed to the risk work that involves.
Right. Mbongeni lapha eMpumalanga siyathemba ukuthi usitakele kulolu hlangothi ke, and there have been various questions with regards to whether this particular judgment is confined to only silicosis or TB cases, as some of the viewers have asked on Facebook. Let's take a look at some of these messages. All right, Setati says, my uncle died this year because of TB. He used to work at mines in Gauteng. During the year 2017, he claimed for his money at the mine without a lawyer, but he was given only 6,000 rand while other people were given 50,000. I just want to know, what's the matter? Is it because he was not accompanied by the lawyer? Pindile says, is this compensation for people who suffered and who are currently having these illnesses? So what about those who were exposed to this silicosis and TB due to their working conditions? For example, my father started late in the 1960s till 1990 in the gold mine. So can you briefly explain what channel you're going to follow to compensate our bereaved families? Nazim Khudbum says, people claim, but sometimes these cases take too long to be settled and some of the people end up dying without getting their money. There's no better way to speed up the process so that they accommodate everyone when they are still alive. Gentlemen, I'm sure you've been reading these SMSs and Facebook messages. Do you want to respond to all or some of them? Alex?
So we are now in the final stages of the settlement. Just so people are aware, the effective date for the setting up of the trust should really happen at the end of the year. But there is work happening behind the scenes. There have been nominated trustees and work is being done with government to put in motion the processes to reach out to people. In terms of TB claims and the like, the system of compensation is supposed to be simple enough for people who are not lawyers to go forward and process claims. Unfortunately, that is often not the case, and it doesn't work like that, and that having a lawyer with you putting that claim forward is of great assistance.
Okay.
There are not enough organizations dealing with that, but there are a few that deal with these sort of claims. Our firm deals with them, as does the LRC in part.
Okay. All right, Mboniso, your response?
To the Facebook message about the caller, about the father who started working in late 60s and stopped working in 1990. I think he's still covered, he's still part of that settlement, as long as he can prove that he worked for the mines that are covered in this settlement.
Okay. Now, just in closing, how will silicosis be prevented from affecting the current mine workers and future mine workers?
I think now it's up to the mines to put measures in place to avoid such thing reoccurring again. I think it's up to the mines putting measures in place and to prevent it.
Okay. Alex, your thoughts in closing?
So, I mean, the mines have to do more. We are seeing, what's great about this settlement is we see that there is a linking now between the trust that's getting set up and the current statutory government compensation system. These should start to speak to each other. This is a benefit that has come out of the settlement for those mining companies who have been willing to change, willing to come to the party and acknowledge that they need to make good on some of the harm that they've caused.
Okay.
It will be very dependent on the mining corporations, but the trust will run for a period of 12 years. And if these illnesses just continue to persist, the likely outcome is there'll be another class action in 12 years' time.
Okay. Your final words as a parting shot?
The final words are, what's happening now is the Chiyomiso Trust is being set up. It's about getting the message out there. It's about working with stakeholders. What I'd like to say is the settlement is guaranteed for 5 billion, but it's actually uncapped. The mines are on the line for as many claims that can be made in the next 12 years.
Okay.
Civil society needs to be aware of this and needs to help and come to the table and assist in any way they can to reach out to mine workers and let them know that there is a claim that they have for the harm they've suffered.
Sure. Gentlemen, we thank you so much for such a stimulating conversation. We appreciate your time. Sifika kanjalo ke bekunene emaphethelweni ethu elihlelo namhla ke asathembe ukuthi ke kunenge lokufunzile ke asibonge kakhulu kumboniso nyathi na Alexander Spoor ngekusipha ke lwathi lolubandi. Sibonge nawe ke mbukele ngekuthi ke ube nathi kuze kube ngimanje. Khumbula ke ukuthi inhlelo yethu iyaphindwa ke njalo ngabolisine ebusuku nga-11 khona la ku SABC 1. Or you can also catch us again on Monday at 12 p.m. for yet another live consumer affairs show. From me, Simpiwe Ngwane, and the rest of the team, have a blessed day. Cheers.
Yilungelo Lakho.